Dr. Elena Vasquez walked through the metal corridors of Nexus Point Trading Station. Her boots made soft sounds on the floor as she headed to the laboratory. She had been working here for 2 years, studying alien life forms. The job paid well, but she missed Earth. Elena stopped at the main computer terminal and checked her messages. Most were routine reports about soil samples and plant studies. But one message made her frown. It came from the station's information network. The headline read, "Local Government Orders, Extermination of Dangerous Alien Cubs." She opened the message and read carefully. The Kethmori government had decided to kill 6 young creatures called Velnari cubs. The report said the cubs were too dangerous to live because they had mental powers that could hurt other beings. Elena had heard of the Velnari before, but she did not know much about them. Elena walked to her friend Jake's office. Jake worked in station security and knew about everything that happened on Nexus Point. She found him drinking coffee and looking at security screens. "Jake, do you know about these Velnari cubs?" Elena asked. Jake looked up from his screens. "Yeah, heard about it this morning. The Kethmori say the cubs can get into people's minds. They think it's too risky to keep them alive." "Where are the cubs now?" Elena asked. "In the biocontainment facility on level 7. "Why do you ask?" Elena felt worried. "I want to see them. Can you get me access?" Jake shrugged. "Sure. But I don't know why you would want to. The Kethmori say these things are dangerous." Elena took the elevator to level 7. The biocontainment facility was a cold, white place with many small rooms for holding alien creatures. A Kethmori guard, with blue skin and 4 arms, stood at the entrance. Elena showed her research permit, and the guard let her enter. She walked down a hallway until she found room 7. Through a thick glass window, she saw 6 small creatures huddled together in the corner. The cubs looked like foxes but had bright, glowing fur that changed colors slowly from blue to purple to gold. They were about the size of house cats, with large eyes that seemed very intelligent. Elena pressed her hand against the glass. The cubs looked up at her. Their eyes were not like animal eyes. They seemed to understand that she was watching them. One of the cubs, slightly larger than the others, moved closer to the glass. It placed a tiny paw against the window where Elena's hand was. Suddenly, Elena felt something strange in her mind. Images flashed through her thoughts. She saw the cubs playing in a forest with adult Velnari, who looked like larger versions of themselves. She saw the adults singing to the cubs in voices that made beautiful sounds. Then the images changed. She saw soldiers coming to the forest. She felt fear and sadness. Elena stepped back from the glass. The cub was still looking at her with its large eyes. Elena realized the cub had shared its memories with her. These were not just animals. They were intelligent beings with families and feelings. Elena went back to Jake's office. "The cubs are just children," she told him. Jake laughed. "Elena, they're aliens. They might look cute, but the Kethmori know what they're doing." "No, Jake, you don't understand. I touched the glass, and one of them showed me its memories. They had families. They had homes. The soldiers took them away from their parents." Jake's face became serious. "Elena, you need to be careful. If the cubs can get into your mind, that proves they're dangerous." Elena shook her head. "The cub wasn't trying to hurt me. It was trying to tell me what happened. These cubs are scared and alone." Elena went to her quarters and used her computer to research the Velnari. Most of the information came from government reports. The reports said the Velnari were a primitive species that lived in forests on the planet Velnaz. They said the Velnari had mental powers that could confuse other beings and cause problems for trade and commerce. But Elena found some older research files from human scientists who had studied the Velnari before the government classified them as dangerous. These files told a different story. The Velnari were peaceful beings who lived in family groups. They used their mental abilities to communicate with each other and with nature. They had a complex society with art, music, and philosophy. Elena also found reports about what happened to the adult Velnari. The government had moved them to relocation facilities. But Elena noticed that no one had seen these adults for months. She suspected the adults were already dead. The next morning, Elena went back to see the cubs. This time, she brought food. The guard let her enter the room where the cubs were kept. The cubs moved away from her at first, but when she sat on the floor and put the food down, they slowly came closer. The largest cub touched Elena's hand again. This time, the mental connection was stronger. Elena saw more memories. She saw the cubs' mother singing to them at night. She saw their father teaching them to use their abilities to sense the feelings of forest animals. She felt the love the parents had for their children. Elena also felt the cubs' current emotions. They were hungry, scared, and confused. They did not understand why they were in this cold place. They missed their parents and wanted to go home. When Elena left the facility, she was crying. She knew she had to do something to help the cubs. But she also knew it would not be easy. The Kethmori government had already decided the cubs must die. They would not change their minds just because one human felt sorry for alien children. That night, Elena could not sleep. She kept thinking about the cubs' frightened eyes and the memories they had shared with her. She thought about their parents who had probably died trying to protect them. She realized that in 3 days, these innocent beings would be dead, and no one would remember them. Elena made a decision. She did not know how yet, but she was going to save those cubs. Elena spent the morning searching through legal databases and government regulations. There had to be some way to save the cubs legally. She could not just steal them. That would make her a criminal and would not help the cubs in the long run. After hours of reading boring legal documents, Elena found something interesting. There was a law that allowed people to purchase alien specimens for scientific research. The law was meant for buying dead samples or simple life forms. But the wording was not specific. It said, biological specimens of alien origin. Elena called the Kethmori administrative office. A bored-sounding official with a translator device answered her call. I want to purchase the Velnari cubs for research purposes, Elena said. The official was quiet for a moment. The cubs are scheduled for extermination. They are not for sale. But according to Regulation 47B, citizens can purchase alien specimens for scientific study, Elena replied. Another pause. Let me check with my supervisor. Now. 10 minutes later, the official called back. My supervisor says you can purchase the cubs, but the price is 50,000 galactic credits. Payment must be made within 48 hours, or the extermination will proceed. Elena's heart sank. 50,000 credits was exactly the amount of money she had saved during her 2 years on Nexus Point. It was every credit she owned. She had planned to use that money to buy passage back to Earth when her contract ended in 6 months. Elena looked at her bank account on her computer screen. The number 50,000 seemed to mock her. Without this money, she would be stuck on Nexus Point with no way to get home. Her job contract would end, and she would have no income. She might have to take dangerous jobs in the outer systems just to survive. Elena went to see Captain Morrison, the human administrator of the station. His office was large and comfortable, with pictures of Earth on the walls. Morrison was a practical man who had worked in space for 20 years. Captain, I need your help, Elena said. The Kethmori are going to kill 6 Velnari cubs. I can buy them, but I need financial support from the human community here. Morrison leaned back in his chair. Elena, I've heard about your interest in these creatures, but you need to understand the bigger picture. We have trade agreements with the Kethmori. We can't interfere with their internal affairs. These aren't internal affairs. These are children being murdered. They're aliens, Elena. We don't know what they're capable of. Maybe the Kethmori are right to be cautious. Elena felt angry. I've met them, Captain. I've seen their memories. They're innocent beings who just want their families back, Morrison sighed. Even if I wanted to help, which I can't officially do, 50,000 credits is a lot of money. The station doesn't have that kind of budget for charity. Elena left Morrison's office feeling defeated. She went to the station's main gathering area, where humans often met for meals and conversation. She found Dr. Sarah Kim, a medical officer, and Tom Bradley, an engineer. Sarah, Tom, I need to tell you about something important, Elena said. She explained about the cubs and their situation. Sarah looked sympathetic. That's terrible, Elena. But what can we do? We're just 3 people. I can buy them. But it will cost me everything I have. I was hoping other humans here might contribute something. Tom shook his head. Elena, I feel bad for these creatures, but I have a family on Mars. I need my savings to visit them. I can't risk my own future for aliens I've never met. Elena spent the rest of the day talking to every human on the station. Some felt sorry for the cubs, but none were willing to risk their own money or careers to help. Most said the same thing. It was sad, but not their problem. That evening, Elena returned to the biocontainment facility. The guard was different this time, a younger Keth Mori, who seemed more relaxed. Elena asked if she could visit the cubs one more time. Sure, but make it quick. They'll be gone soon anyway, the guard said. Elena sat with the cubs again. They seemed to recognize her now. The largest cub, who she had started thinking of as Echo, came to sit beside her. When Echo touched her hand, Elena felt the cub's emotions clearly. Echo was sad and frightened, but also hopeful. Somehow, the cub believed Elena might help. Elena shared her own thoughts with Echo. She tried to explain that she wanted to save them but that it would cost her everything. To her surprise, Echo seemed to understand. The cub showed Elena an image of Elena herself, but in this image, Elena looked proud and happy, surrounded by all 6 cubs in a safe place. Elena realized that Echo was telling her the cubs understood the sacrifice she would have to make. They were not asking her to save them. They were simply grateful that someone cared enough to try. Elena went back to her quarters and stared at her computer screen. The number 50,000 glowed in her bank account. It represented 2 years of hard work, 2 years of being away from everything she loved on Earth. It was her ticket home. But Elena kept thinking about the cubs' eyes. She thought about their dead parents. She thought about the fear and loneliness the cubs felt every day. She thought about what would happen in 2 days if no one helped them. Elena had grown up poor on Earth. She knew what it felt like to have no choices and no hope. She had worked hard to become a scientist so she could have a better life. Now she had to choose between her future and the lives of 6 alien children. Elena looked at a picture of Earth on her desk. She had missed the blue skies and green forests for 2 years. She had dreamed of going home. But she realized that if she let the cubs die to save her money, she would never be able to enjoy Earth again. She would always remember that she had chosen money over innocent lives. At 3 in the morning, Elena made her choice. She activated the money transfer system and sent 50,000 credits to the Keth Mori administrative account. In the space for the reason, she wrote, "Purchase of 6 Velnari specimens for scientific research." Elena was now completely broke, with no way to return to Earth. But for the first time in days, she felt peace. Elena received a message from the Keth Mori administrative office early the next morning. The payment had been processed, and she was now the legal owner of 6 alien biological specimens. The message included an appointment time to collect her purchase from the biocontainment facility. Elena felt excited and nervous as she walked to level 7. Finally, she could save the cubs. But when she arrived at the facility, she discovered that the situation was worse than she had imagined. The same guard from her first visit was there. He led Elena to the cubs' room, but what she saw made her angry. The cubs were lying on the floor, barely moving. They looked sick and weak. Their beautiful glowing fur had become dull and gray. "What's wrong with them?" Elena demanded. The guard looked at a datapad. "Standard procedure for dangerous mental creatures. They have neural inhibitors attached to suppress their abilities." Elena looked closer and saw small metal devices attached to the cubs' heads. The devices had blinking red lights and made soft buzzing sounds. Elena did not need to touch the cubs to sense their pain. She could see it in their eyes. "These devices are hurting them," Elena said. The guard shrugged. "The inhibitors prevent them from using their mental powers. It's for everyone's safety." Elena realized the Keth Mori had never intended for the cubs to survive, even if someone bought them. The neural inhibitors were slowly killing them. Elena had paid 50,000 credits, but she was still going to lose the cubs unless she acted fast. Elena left the facility and went to find Dr. Yuki Chen, a human engineer who worked on the station's medical equipment. Yuki was one of the few humans who had seemed sympathetic when Elena had asked for help before. "Yuki, I need your technical expertise," Elena said. "The Cubs have neural inhibitor devices on them. I need to remove them safely." Yuki frowned. "Elena, those devices are probably connected directly to their nervous systems. If you remove them wrong, you could kill them. The devices are already killing them. Please, just take a look." Yuki agreed to examine the Cubs. When she saw them, her face became angry. "These inhibitors are not medical devices. They're torture devices. They send constant pain signals to prevent the Cubs from concentrating enough to use their abilities." "Can you remove them?" Elena asked. "I think so, but it will be dangerous. We need to do this somewhere safe, not in a Kethmori facility." Elena had already thought about this problem. Her research lab had medical equipment and was in the human section of the station. If she could get the Cubs there, they could work without interference. The next challenge was moving the Cubs. Elena could not simply carry 6 alien creatures through the station corridors without attracting attention. She needed a plan. Elena returned to the bio-containment facility with a large container meant for transporting biological samples. She told the guard she needed to move her specimens to her laboratory for study. The guard helped her load the Cubs into the container. The Cubs were so weak they could barely stand. Elena and Yuki carried the container to Elena's lab. Once they were safely inside, they carefully lifted each Cub out. The Cubs were breathing slowly, and their eyes were half closed. Elena was afraid they might be dying. Yuki examined the neural inhibitors with her tools. "These are definitely causing brain damage. We need to remove them immediately." The removal process was delicate. Yuki had to disconnect tiny wires that went into the Cubs' skulls. Elena held each Cub steady, while Yuki worked. It took 2 hours to remove all 6 devices. As soon as the last inhibitor was removed, something amazing happened. The Cubs' fur began to glow again, changing colors from blue to purple to gold. Their eyes opened wider and became bright and alert. Most importantly, Elena felt their minds reaching out to her. The mental connection was much stronger now than when Elena had first met them. She could feel not just Echo's thoughts, but all 6 Cubs' minds at once. It was like hearing a beautiful song with 6 different voices. Through their shared thoughts, the Cubs told Elena their story. Their names were Echo, Song, Dream, Wind, Star, and Hope. They had lived in a forest city with hundreds of other Velnari. Their people were not primitive at all. They had a complex civilization based on mental harmony and connection with nature. The Cubs showed Elena memories of their parents and grandparents. The adult Velnari could do amazing things with their minds. They could sense the health of entire forests. They could predict weather patterns days in advance. They could even touch what they called the deep current, a flow of energy that connected all living things in the universe. Elena learned that the Velnari had once been teachers to other species. Long ago, they had helped primitive civilizations learn to use mental abilities and live in harmony with their worlds. But as the galaxy became more focused on technology and trade, fewer species wanted to learn the old ways. The Cubs also shared painful memories of the attack on their home. Soldiers had come without warning. The adult Velnari had tried to protect their children using their mental abilities. But the soldiers had weapons that blocked psychic powers. Elena saw through the Cubs' memories how their parents had died fighting to give their children a chance to escape. Echo, who was the oldest Cub at about 5 years old in human terms, shared a special memory with Elena. Before his mother died, she had touched his mind and given him a message. "Find the ones who protect the innocent. They will teach you, and you will teach them." Elena realized that the Cubs' mother had somehow known that Elena would find them. The Velnari could sense the future through their connection to the deep current. As Elena spent more time with the Cubs, she discovered that their abilities were growing stronger. They could sense her emotions and thoughts even when she was not touching them. They could communicate with each other without making any sounds. Most surprisingly, they began to share their abilities with Elena. When Elena meditated with the Cubs, she could feel what they called the deep current. It was like sensing the heartbeat of the universe itself. Elena could suddenly perceive things she had never noticed before. She could sense the emotional states of other people on the station. She could feel the health of the plants in her laboratory. She even began to have brief glimpses of possible futures. Yuki was amazed by what she witnessed. Elena, these creatures are not just intelligent. They're operating on a level of consciousness that we don't understand. They're showing you abilities that humans didn't know were possible. Elena nodded. She was beginning to understand that saving the cubs was about more than just rescue. The cubs represented knowledge and abilities that could change how humans understood themselves and the universe. But Elena also knew that their safety was still not guaranteed. The cubs were legally hers, but the Kethmori might try to take them back by force. She needed to find a way to protect them permanently. As Elena watched the cubs playing together in her lab, their fur glowing with happiness, she made a new decision. She would not just save these 6 cubs. She would make sure that what happened to their people never happened to any other innocent beings. Elena knew she could not keep the cubs hidden in her laboratory forever. Within a week, someone would notice her unusual behavior and discover them. She needed help from other humans, but this time she had something powerful to show them. Elena contacted Dr. Rachel Santos, a human biologist working on the mining colony Kepler Station. Rachel was someone Elena had met at scientific conferences. She was known for her strong beliefs about protecting alien life forms. "Rachel, I need to show you something that could change everything we know about consciousness," Elena said over the video connection. Elena had Echo come close to the camera. When Echo touched the screen, something incredible happened. Rachel suddenly sat up straight in her chair, her eyes becoming wide. "I can feel it," Rachel whispered. "There's something in my mind. It's showing me. Oh my God. Elena, what is this?" Echo was sharing the memory of the deep current with Rachel across space. The cubs' abilities were growing stronger every day, and now they could make mental connections through electronic devices. Elena explained everything that had happened. Rachel listened with amazement and growing anger. "Elena, you're telling me that an entire intelligent species was wiped out, and no one in the galactic community cared?" "Not just one species, Rachel. I think this is happening to others. The cubs showed me something disturbing. In their racial memories, they can sense other species like them that have gone silent over the past 50 years. Rachel was quiet for a moment. "I've heard rumors about some unusual extermination orders in my sector. Species being declared dangerous or diseased when they were actually just different. I never connected them before. We need to investigate this. But first, I need to make sure the cubs are safe. The Kethmori are demanding their return." Rachel's face became determined. "Elena, send me all your data. I'm going to share this with every human scientist I know. People need to see what you've discovered." Within days, Elena's story was spreading through human colonies across the galaxy. The video of Echo making mental contact through the screen was shared on every communication network. Humans everywhere could see the intelligence and gentleness in the cub's eyes. Dr. James Wright, a human psychologist on Earth, sent Elena a message. "The cub's abilities suggest forms of consciousness that could revolutionize human understanding of the mind. This is the most important discovery in centuries." Commander Lisa Park, who led the human colony on New Geneva, sent a different kind of message. "Elena, we found 3 similar species in our sector that were classified as extinct. After seeing your videos, I ordered new investigations. These species aren't extinct, they're hiding." Elena began to understand that her rescue of 6 cubs had revealed a galaxy-wide conspiracy. Species with unusual mental abilities were being systematically eliminated, and the galactic community was either helping or ignoring it. The cubs, now living freely in Elena's expanded laboratory, continued to grow stronger. They were teaching Elena and Yuki abilities that humans had never imagined possible. Elena could now sense the emotional states of people anywhere on the station. Yuki could predict mechanical failures before they happened by feeling the stress patterns in metal and electronics. But the cubs' most amazing ability was their capacity to awaken similar skills in other humans. When Elena video called other human scientists and let the cubs make mental contact, those humans began developing psychic abilities of their own. Dr. Santos reported from Kepler Station. "Elena, it's incredible. After Echo touched my mind, I can sense the mineral deposits in our mines without using equipment. It's like the cubs are teaching us abilities humans always had but never knew how to access. The news reached Earth within a month. Elena received a call from Director Harrison, the head of the Human Science Council. Dr. Vasquez, what you've discovered could give humanity abilities we've only dreamed of. We're sending a diplomatic ship to collect you and the cubs. You'll be given every resource you need to continue your research. But Elena had learned to be suspicious of official offers. Director, I appreciate the support, but the cubs are not experiments. They're children who have already suffered too much. Of course, Dr. Vasquez. We simply want to provide you with better facilities and protection. The Kethmori government is putting pressure on all human colonies to return the cubs. Elena discussed this with the cubs through their mental connection. Echo shared an image with her. Elena and the cubs on a beautiful planet with green forests and clear water. Surrounded by many other rescued species, this was Echo's vision of their future. Elena made her decision. Director, I'll come to Earth, but only if you agree to my conditions. The cubs stay with me at all times. And I want funding to establish a sanctuary for other endangered intelligent species. A sanctuary for aliens? Dr. Vasquez, that would be very expensive and politically complicated. Director, let me share something with you. Elena had Echo make mental contact with Director Harrison through the video connection. After a few moments, Harrison's expression changed completely. My God, Dr. Vasquez, I can feel. It's like touching the mind of the universe itself. This changes everything. Elena smiled. Now do you understand why they wanted to kill these cubs? Within hours of Harrison's experience, the Human Science Council voted to establish the first galactic sanctuary for endangered intelligent species. Elena would be the director, and the cubs would be the first residents. But not everyone was happy with these developments. The Kethmori government demanded that all human colonies return the cubs immediately. They claimed Elena had violated galactic law, and that the cubs were a threat to galactic stability. Commander Park sent Elena an urgent message. The Kethmori are sending warships to human colonies, demanding we hand over any rescued species. They're threatening to cut off trade if we don't comply. Elena felt fear for the first time since rescuing the cubs. What if her actions led to war between humans and the Kethmori? But then something unexpected happened. Elena received messages from colonies all across human space. Every human colony and station had voted to support what they were calling the Human Protection Protocol, a declaration that any intelligent being seeking human protection would receive it, regardless of their species or origin. Captain Morrison, who had refused to help Elena before, came to her laboratory with an official document. Elena, I owe you an apology. The Human Colonial Council has declared the cubs to be under permanent human protection. Any attempt to remove them will be considered an act of war. Elena looked at the document with amazement. Captain, this could destroy human relationships with other galactic powers. Morrison smiled. Elena, after what you've shown us about these cubs and their abilities, human leaders have realized something important. We've been thinking too small. The cubs aren't just showing us new abilities. They're showing us what humans could become. Echo touched Elena's hand and shared one final vision with her. Elena saw human colonies across the galaxy, each one sheltering different rescued species. She saw humans learning amazing abilities from their alien friends. She saw a future where humans became known throughout the galaxy as the protectors of the innocent and the teachers of transcendence. Elena realized that her simple act of spending her last money to save 6 cubs had started something much bigger than a rescue. She had started a revolution that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. 5 years had passed since Elena spent her last money to save 6 Velnari cubs. Now she stood on the observation deck of Haven Station, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. What had started as a desperate rescue had grown into something that changed the entire known universe. Haven Station was no longer just Elena's small laboratory. It had become a massive complex built around a beautiful planet called New Eden. The planet had forests, lakes, and meadows where dozens of rescued species lived freely. Elena was now the director of the Galactic Sanctuary for Endangered Intelligent Species. but everyone simply called her the Guardian. Echo, now a magnificent adult Velnari, stood beside Elena. His fur shimmered with complex patterns of light that showed his emotions. He was no longer the frightened cub she had saved. He had grown into a wise and powerful being who served as Elena's closest advisor and friend. "Another ship from the Andromeda colonies," Echo said, his voice now reaching Elena through their permanent mental bond. "They bring 12 Zephyrian children whose parents were killed for disrupting mining operations." Elena sighed. Even after 5 years, species across the galaxy were still being targeted for elimination. But now, there was a difference. Humans had become known as the protectors of endangered intelligent life. Every human colony had established rescue protocols. Every human ship carried detection equipment to find hidden refuges where persecuted species might be hiding. Elena walked through the corridors of Haven Station toward the arrival bay. The station was always busy now. Human scientists worked alongside rescued aliens to study consciousness and develop new technologies. The combination of human engineering skills and alien mental abilities had led to amazing discoveries. In the medical bay, Dr. Sarah Kim worked with Healing Song, a crystalline being whose species had been declared geologically hazardous by miners. Together they had developed medical techniques that could cure diseases thought to be impossible to treat. In the engineering section, Yuki Chen collaborated with Windwalker, a gas-based life form that could sense quantum fluctuations. Their partnership had created faster-than-light communication systems that connected human colonies across the galaxy instantly. Elena reached the arrival bay just as the newest ship docked. The ship's captain, Commander Torres, met Elena at the airlock. "Guardian, we have 12 young Zephyrians. Their species was nearly wiped out, but we found these survivors hiding in asteroid caves. They've been alone for 3 years. Elena's heart ached as she saw the Zephyrian children. They looked like small dragons with crystalline scales, but their eyes held the same fear and sadness Elena remembered from her first cubs. Echo approached the children slowly, projecting feelings of safety and welcome. Within moments, the young Zephyrians relaxed. One of them, a little larger than the others, approached Echo and made a sound like tinkling bells. "She says her name is Crystal Heart," Echo translated. "She thanks us for finding them." Elena knelt down to Crystal Heart's level. "You're safe now. This is your new home." Elena gave the Zephyrian children to Gentle Rain, a motherly being from the Whisper species, who ran the sanctuary's nursery. Elena had learned that rescued children recovered faster when cared for by beings who understood what it meant to lose everything. After settling the new arrivals, Elena went to her office for her daily meeting with the Galactic Council. The Council was a group of human leaders from colonies across space who coordinated rescue efforts and political responses to alien governments. Director Harrison's image appeared on Elena's screen, along with 12 other colony leaders. "Elena, we have new intelligence about the extermination campaigns," Harrison said. "Our rescued allies have been sharing their racial memories with our psychics. We now understand the full scope of what's been happening." Commander Park from New Geneva spoke next. "Elena, this goes back thousands of years. Every species with advanced mental abilities has been systematically eliminated by a coalition of governments that fear transcendence." Elena frowned. "Transcendence? What do you mean?" Echo entered Elena's office and joined the conversation. Through their mental link, he shared information that made Elena's eyes widen. "The Velnari racial memory goes back 50,000 years, Echo explained. "Long ago, our people and others like us helped species evolve beyond their physical limitations. Entire civilizations learned to access higher dimensions of consciousness. They became beings of pure thought and energy. But some species refused this evolution," Elena said, understanding suddenly. "They wanted to stay in the physical universe." "Yes," Echo confirmed. "Those species formed an alliance to prevent any others from achieving transcendence. They've been eliminating teacher species for millennia to keep the galaxy trapped in lower consciousness." Director Harrison looked grim. "Elena, our rescued aliens are telling us that humanity is the first species in thousands of years to actively protect the teachers instead of eliminating them. Elena understood now why her simple act of compassion had had such huge consequences. By saving the cubs and then other species, humans had broken a cycle of suppression that had lasted for thousands of years. What happens now? Elena asked. Echo shared a vision through their mental connection. Elena saw human colonies across the galaxy, each one home to multiple rescued species. She saw humans and aliens working together, their combined abilities creating technologies and understanding beyond anything previously imagined. But the vision showed more than that. Elena saw humans themselves beginning to evolve. The mental abilities that the rescued species were teaching, humans were changing humanity at a genetic level. Human children born on colonies with rescued psychic species were developing abilities that previous generations could never have imagined. Guardian, came a voice from behind Elena. She turned to see Hope, one of the original cubs she had saved. Hope had grown into a beautiful adult Velnari with fur that shifted through every color of the rainbow. The Council of Transcended Beings has sent a message, Hope said. Elena was surprised. The Council of Transcended Beings was legendary. They were the civilizations that had achieved pure consciousness thousands of years ago. No one had heard from them in centuries. Hope projected the message directly into Elena's mind. Elena felt the presence of beings so advanced they were like thoughts made of starlight. Their message was simple but profound. To the human Elena Vasquez and her allies, you have chosen protection over profit, love over fear, transcendence over stagnation. The path to higher consciousness is open once again. The teachers are safe. The students are ready. The galaxy will evolve. Elena felt tears in her eyes. She looked around her office at Echo and Hope, then at the screen showing the human leaders who had supported her impossible dream. Elena, Director Harrison said quietly, our xenopsychologists estimate that within 50 years, humans and our rescued allies will have abilities that current galactic civilizations would consider godlike. We're not just protecting endangered species anymore. We're midwifing the birth of a new kind of consciousness. Elena walked to her office window and looked out at New Eden. In the meadows below, human children played with young aliens of a dozen different species. They communicated through a mixture of words, telepathy, and pure emotional connection. These children would grow up thinking that mental abilities and interspecies cooperation were normal. Elena remembered the moment 5 years ago when she had looked at her bank account showing 50,000 credits. She had thought she was choosing between her future and the lives of 6 alien cubs. Now she understood that she had actually been choosing between a small personal future and the future of all consciousness in the galaxy. Echo came to stand beside her at the window. Elena, the cubs you saved are now adults. We want to give you something. Echo touched Elena's hand, and suddenly Elena could feel something she had never experienced before. She was connected not just to Echo and the other Velnari, but to every rescued being in the sanctuary, to every human working with them, to the very fabric of space and time itself. Welcome to the deep current, Elena, Echo said. You gave up your old life to save us. Now we give you a new life that will last forever. Elena realized that she was no longer just human. The years of working with psychic species had changed her at a fundamental level. She was becoming something new, something that existed partly in physical reality and partly in higher dimensions. As Elena felt her consciousness expanding to touch the minds of humans and aliens across the galaxy, she smiled. She had spent her last money to buy out cubs doomed to extermination. In return, she had received something priceless: the chance to help all sentient life transcend the limitations that had trapped them for thousands of years. The galaxy would never be the same. And Elena was proud that humanity had chosen to be the species that brought protection, love, and transcendence to the stars.